So, I identify as a sex-repulsed asexual, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about what that actually means to me, because to me that's a bit more than the whole just not wanting sex at all thing. Obviously, within the asexual spectrum, there are lots of different types of asexuals, such as sex-repulsed, sex-indifferent, or sex-positive, and there are others, but those are the main three that I generally focus on. With the whole sex-repulsed thing, to me it is more than just not wanting sex. There is more than the whole, ugh, sex is gross, what the fuck, how does it work? I don't get it, keep it away from me thing, which is, granted, me. It's gross, I don't get it, and that's okay. There's also the whole bit of sex just isn't a part of my life in pretty much any way. But I kind of put that under sex repulsion, because even though I'm not always physically repulsed by the idea, it's just not a thing that is relevant to most of the things I do in my life. And then obviously you've got the whole umbrella term lack of sexual attraction thing that comes with being asexual and lacking sexual attraction to others. Sex can be a part of asexuals' lives, and it's a common misconception that it's not. You've got many asexual spectrum people who are in healthy sexual relationships and often pursue sexual relationships, because there is more to asexuality than sex itself. It's about the sexual attraction rather than the sexual intercourse or actions. Obviously, I can't talk for anyone else other than myself. This is just my experience that I'm talking about, though I want to shed light on the fact that others' experiences aren't always the same as mine. In my head, I can just not conceive of having sexual attraction. Obviously, I know what sexual attraction is as a concept. I don't know what it feels like, and I have never known what it feels like, and currently I don't think I ever will, though obviously I can't speak for the rest of my life in its entirety. The example that I feel like explains sex repulsion in my life the best is through the example of a TV show. Specifically, a TV show that I didn't watch when I was a child. And this whole scenario is set when I was about 9 or 10 years old. If everyone around you as a child watches a Disney show or a Nickelodeon show, except you, because you've only got the Freeview channels, you've got CITV, you've got CBBC, you've got that whole lot, and that's about it in terms of kids TV. But it seems that everyone else at school is watching Drake and Josh, or is watching Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, or like Wizards of Waverly Place, or I can't think of any others at the minute because I didn't watch them. But you get the gist. Everyone is watching these shows except you, but it's not necessarily something you feel like you're missing out on. It's just something that's not relevant to your life. Like, sure, if around the table at lunch everyone starts talking about what happened in last night's episode of this show, you just don't understand it, but you don't necessarily feel like repulsed by the idea of this TV show. Like, I've just never watched the TV show. I just don't have access to the TV show. It's not relevant to my life. It doesn't mean that every time anyone mentions the TV show, I'm gonna be like, oh no, stop talking about that TV show. I don't understand it. I'm repulsed by the idea of the TV show. It's just gross. Like, why would anyone watch it? It's just not a part of my life. And that's just how I feel about sex and sexual attraction. It's just something that I've never experienced and never watched. And it's just not a part of my life. When anyone else talks about sex or sexual attraction, I'm just kind of there like, I know of what you're talking about. I know of this TV show. I know of sexual attraction, but I've never watched the TV show. I've never experienced sexual attraction. It's just a thing that I know. It's just a concept floating up here. It's not a concept that I feel in my head. I really hope that example makes sense, because in my head it works, but I don't know if it actually does. So, but yes, sex is just not relevant to my life. So away from the whole general experience of me being sex repulsed in that I just think sex is gross, I'm also sex repulsed in that it's just not relevant. It's just not a thing that I experience, and it never has been, and I don't know if it ever will be. And then you kind of got the whole, should I talk about sex around someone who's ace or around someone who's sex repulsed? Honestly, it depends. It depends on the person. There's obviously a distinction in talking about sexual actions or anything to do with sex and engaging in them, and there's also a distinction in hearing jokes and making jokes yourself, and it just depends from person to person. And the other thing to remember is that sexual identity and sexual attraction, much like anything else, is fluid and it can change. The best thing to do is ask about personal boundaries, and a lot of the time the person may answer with, well, I don't really know what's okay, I'm just kind of not sure, it's a big question mark. And that is often where I stand on it, but it depends on the time and the place and how I'm feeling in and with myself, and it's not even something that you can control, and it's something that no one else can tell, so it's very context dependent. But the other thing is the whole experience aspect. Yes, a lot of asexual people are virgins and a lot of them aren't, even if they are sex repulsed. Sometimes people only come to terms with their identity after experiencing a whole variety of different sexual experiences, and sometimes they don't. But you can never really just define it by, yeah, asexuals are virgins, because asexuality doesn't equal virginity. Just saying. So, for example, though most of the time I'm generally okay with hearing sexual jokes or stories that people are telling, I made a video about this on my friend Jake's channel about jokes and humour with asexuals. I made this back in August, link will be in the description, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But the gist of this point is, one of the things that affects me and how I feel when I'm sex repulsed is when my friends become sexualized and become these sexual beings in my head based off of stories and knowing that this friend got with this person and whatever. In my head they weren't sexual people before and now they are, and my little ace brain doesn't know how to handle it. So though a lot of the time I am okay hearing sexual jokes, I don't make them. And there are a few reasons for this. One is a personal reason, because a lot of ace people are disconnected from the whole concept and idea of sex. So I know people that will make sexual jokes in order to help them feel more connected and more normal. That's okay, but for me, I'm disconnected from the idea of sex, and I like being disconnected from it because it's not relevant to my life, and I'm okay with that. And then the other thing is that I don't know how it works. Often I may be sat at a table with my friends, there'll be a conversation going on, whatever, I'll hear something that I'm like, could be an innuendo, and in my head I'll be like, I could say this. That's a funny, dirty joke. Ooh. But then my head just kind of goes, but Emmy, what if you're wrong? You don't know anything. Like, what if you say this thing and that's just not how it works, and then you just look stupid? So I just don't. And sometimes the joke will be made by someone else and I'll just kind of be like, I did think that, I wanted to say that, but I was just too scared in case I was wrong, and that's not how sex works, just saying. But that's, again, personal preference. I can hear the jokes, but I don't want to make them because I don't have experience, and what if I'm wrong? Though obviously that's a very personal thing and kind of stems from the idea of sex repulsion and isn't inherently linked to it. That's where I stand with stuff like this. But the general point that I'm making is sex repulsion is different for everyone. To me, sex repulsion is more than just, sex is gross. It's also the fact that sex may not be relevant in your life and it's just not a thing that graces your mind. Also the fact that you lack sexual attraction as an asexual. And now, as I said, the reason that I'm not talking about being sex indifferent or being sex positive as an asexual is because I don't know. If you are sex indifferent or sex positive or even sex repulsed and you want to make a video on this topic, please go ahead. It's something that I would be incredibly interested in watching, and if anyone does happen to make any responses, I will leave them in the description because it's very important to educate, and obviously I can only talk from my experiences as an ace arrow sex repulsed human being. Like, I'm gonna love you and leave you all and go eat dinner because I'm real hungry. But I hope that this video shed a bit of light on the whole concept of sex repulsion, because it's a difficult concept to get your head around when it's not something that you experience. And leave a comment about how you feel this video relates to your identity as an asexual, and insert romantic identity and insert kind of repulsion, indifference, positivity, or whatever, feel free to make a video response. I would love to see them, and yes, I will see you in the next video that I make. Don't forget that I have a Patreon and you can support me on that. Okay, right, good. Bye.